and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harek Shun Calfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harek Shun Calfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into Science with Sean. Before we get started, I just want to read the Copyright Act. The copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. I do want to say, like the show, share the show, tell a friend that we're live. I appreciate everybody that has joined the chat immediately. Everybody that'll catch the replay. Please, like the show, share the show. I am going to go ahead and share my screen real quick because we are going to do a two-part series if we can get through the first part. We're going to do a two-part series about the misguided mind of anti-vaxxers, featuring Bigtree. Now, I am going to explain to y'all who Bigtree is, and just so everybody is aware and we're all on the same page. I did want to put the Copyright Infringing Act clause on the site for YouTube. So hopefully, we're not getting dinged for our reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research in regard to the series that we're going to partake in. These are short videos. They're like 20-something minutes a piece. But of course, when you unpack the 20-something minute video, they end up taking maybe an hour or so, or maybe even more. So before we begin, I want to say peace to Pure, peace to Lamar, Stacy, Sutek, Jeremy, Chill, I see you, Blackwell, Miss Blackwell, how you doing? Alexander, I see you in the building, Keenan in the building, and everybody who hasn't said anything in the chat yet, peace to you. Again, like the show, share the show. It's about to get very, very interesting. All right, so as I told you before, we're going to find out who this gentleman, Bigtree, is. And I'm just going to pull up a quick wiki article on the brother. But first, before I do anything, or before I say anything, I do. 2019, the end of 2019 in December, before the pandemic broke out, Unc West debated the largest anti-vax movement in the world. And one of the people that was a part of that debate was strictly a part of that debate outside of Kennedy as the influencer was the gentleman that we're about to talk about today. And his name is Dale Matthew Bigtree. I don't know if many of you in the chat are familiar with Mr. Bigtree, but he is the cause for he's the topic of conversation today. And we're going to review his work. We're going to take a step back. And the reason we're going to take a step back is because in order for us to move forward, we have to take a step back. People continue to make us take a step back. And a lot of the rhetoric and a lot of the misinformation and a lot of the anti-vax arguments stem from Robert Kennedy, who is heavily invested in the anti-vax agenda. Bigtree, he's made that movie Vaxxed, him. And then there's another gentleman who's an herbalist who are pretty much the face of all the noise. And then behind them, there's a slew of other people. I actually talk about the other people and even Bigtree in my book, What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me. I dedicated a chapter in talking about some things that these people have done. So the book's going to be interesting, be a learning experience, other stuff to unpack. However, Dale Matthew Bigtree is an American television and film producer, as well as a CEO. Listen to what he's a CEO of, an anti-vaccine group called Informed Consent Action Network. He produced the film Vaxxed, based on the discredited views of Andrew Wakefield, and alleges an unsubstantiated connection between vaccines and autism. Bigtree's appeal as a public speaker and recent influx to funding has made Bigtree, who has no medical training, one of the most prominent voices in the anti-vaccine movement. During COVID-19 pandemic, Bigtree propagated conspiracy theories about the origins of the virus and urged his audience to ignore the advice of health authorities. Bigtree, in a debate with Unc West, stated that, in his own words, he had no solution to the measles outbreak that was happening in Samoa. And he said, Unc asked him, what was his solution? He said it was to introduce his children to the virus naturally. That was his solution. He said that way they could be introduced to it, get familiar with it, never have to deal with it again. Never mind if it killed his children or not. That's exactly what he said. So we're going to get into the mental makeup of Dale Bigtree. We're going to see exactly what this brother was attempting to do, or it still is attempting to do, because he's putting our people in harm's way, because a lot of his information, has creeped into the Black community wholeheartedly. So I don't know how many people will actually be along for this ride, or even if this is a topic of conversation for you, but man, just enjoy this. So again, that's a little bit about Bigtree. And we're going to deal specifically with a video that he actually did. So now that you know who Bigtree is, we're going to go to his network. The Informed Consent Action Network, ICANN, is one of the main anti-vaccine groups in the United States. It was founded by Bigtree in 2016, spreads misinformation about the risk of vaccines and contributes to vaccine hesitancy, which has been identified by the WHO as one of the top 10 global health threats of 2019. Arguments against vaccinations are contradicted by overwhelming scientific consensus about the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. We all know who funds him. He gets plenty of paper, donations, crazy people, the Kennedys, all of that. Okay, in 2018, ICANN filed Freedom of Information lawsuits to the FDA and the NIH and the Department of HHS to release administrative reports on childhood vaccine injury. HHS is required to file for Congress. The HHS replied that they could not find any such reports. So, he wanted to do all of that. Now, he's been fact-checked a lot, debunked a lot, but still, what he does and what he loves to do, alternative medicine, what he loves to do is create noise. There's also an article that was published about Bigtree at an anti-vaccine campaign with some hidden cameras. Revealed in that was the fact that he admitted to his audience that we just need to make enough noise to cause some hesitancy and some ruckus to a group of Republicans at the time, and was what it was on that. So let's move on. We got an idea who this dude is, what his foundation is about. Let's start episode 1. Come on, I know we can get some more people in here. Like the show, share the show. Like the show, share the show. Like the show, share the show. Let's get to it.
Vaccines dominating the headlines at the moment, and we're being told that they're looking great in terms of efficacy. We thought, who better to speak to than Emmy Award-winning producer Del Bigtree, and also host of The High Wire. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, Natalie.
Now, we've got a lot of information to get through in a very short amount of time. So, first of all, I wanted to start with the COVID vaccine is obviously being compared to a lot of other vaccines that are around and available to us already, especially the flu vaccine. So the flu vaccine generally has, according to reports that we've read, 40 to 60% efficacy, but we're being told that the new COVID vaccines are at around 90 to 95% effective. Is this possible in a vaccine to have that sort of efficacy?
Well, certainly, I suppose it's possible. Anything's possible. I believe in science, and I know that good science can be done, and we can always strive for better. But there's already a lot of confusion about the statements that you just made. Number one, you cannot compare this vaccine to a flu vaccine because these are brand new experimental technologies. Never before in the history of mankind have we injected a product that's about to do what these vaccines do. In the one hand, you have the mRNA vaccine approach, which is being used by Pfizer and Moderna. This is not. Now remember, every vaccine up until this point has in some way or another injected a small particle of a virus into your body, an adjuvant to sort of hyperstimulate your immune system so that it recognizes that the virus is there, whether it's a killed virus or a live virus, but it creates antibodies to fight that virus. So that's how really, in being very general, how most vaccines have always worked. These new technologies are now working with our DNA and our RNA. And in case of the mRNA vaccine.
All right. So you heard him give a breakdown of how vaccines are supposed to work. And you also heard him say that he was an advocate for science, just not vaccine science, because he's an anti-vaxxer. But he just gave an explanation of how vaccines work, right? And then he went on to say, excuse me for making the noise. I'm just putting some paper in this bottle. But he went on to say that these vaccines deal with your DNA and RNA. Let me run it back for you.
Virus. So that's how, really, in being very general, how most vaccines have always worked. These new technologies are now working with our DNA and our RNA. And in case of the mRNA vaccine,
before he elaborates, so the first mistake that Bigtree makes is correlating the new mRNA vaccines to dealing with your DNA. That's the first error. The first mistake. This video, this came out in 2020, but this is the beginning of a shitstorm of misinformation that has crept into the hands of the social media scientists and been propagated all over social media and, you know, and other clippings. So let's hear him explain what mRNA is.
DNA and our RNA. And in case of the mRNA vaccine, we are turning your body not only into a vaccine manufacturer, but a virus manufacturer. This mRNA message.
All right. So second problem here, and this is the reason that we're breaking this down now. For anyone that's probably tuned in and this is the first time that they're actually hearing this, I already have the videos and the sources to deal with what I'm saying. So if I need to back myself up, I've already done the videos to do this. I can refer you to those videos, or I can sit here and I can source up. Okay. Now, what he just said was towing the line basically of pseudoisms. Okay. It's towing the lines of pseudoisms. Now he says they're turning your body into a vaccine maker, a virus maker. That is not the case. All right, with mRNA technology, okay, once you receive the vaccine, it goes to the outer layer of the cell. It never goes into the nucleus of the cell where the DNA is. Does not alter the DNA. It goes into the outer layer of the cell. From there, the messenger is loaded. I'm trying to make this as common as possible. The outer layer of the cell, okay, through your arm to the outer layer of your cell. From the cell to, your cell, it communicates to the ribosomes. The ribosomes, which is what we call each one teach one, teaches the rest of your body how to develop the spike, not the virus, the spike. Right? Because the ribosomes are helping transmit the information to help your immune system, to train your immune system how to create the spike. So when you encounter the virus, your body already has the protection. Now, this is the greatest thing about this technology, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time hearing this. It's the safest way because it does not have the virus in it. It is a better way because it trains the immune system. It trains your body on how to make the spike. So when you encounter the virus, no matter if it's alpha, delta, omega, psi phi, it don't lambda, cum laude, it don't matter which variant they name. The spike protein, the body will recognize a foreign antigen and reject it. That's exactly what is happening. Now, this is at the beginning stages before that, this is during the EUA, and then they're getting ready to administer it to other people. So we have to put context behind this. This video, again, is from 2020, before the actual rollout of the vaccines. So I'm gonna back it up again, right? And I'm gonna let him go a little bit further.
In our RNA, and in case of the mRNA vaccine, we are turning your body not only into a vaccine manufacturer, but a virus manufacturer.
How the hell are you gonna turn your body into a vaccine manufacturer? You see the errors? We're 2 minutes and 32 seconds in there, and we caught him on 3 mistakes. 3 mistakes. Bold ones. How does your body turn into a vaccine? If getting an mRNA vaccine turned my body into a vaccine maker, then that's immaculate. That is a beautiful thing, because you know what? That means my immune system is trained and ready to go. I'm ready to fight anything. The hell with my mask.
RNA message that's in the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine is being sent into your body. Now, an RNA message tends to be your DNA sends an RNA message to give advice or tell your cells what to do in your body. And so that's how, your body works.
Again, I just explained this to everybody how it works. The mRNA vaccine goes to the outer layer of the cell. It never goes into the DNA, so the DNA is not transcribing. Dale here is under the impression of a viral vector vaccine. He is communicating a second generation vaccine method to a third generation vaccine method. He's comparing the two, and he's confusing the information. This means that he's unaware of and he has not fully digested the data, which means that all the lessons that science has been trying to teach people in the midst of how mRNA vaccines work, he ignored them. Let's continue.
This is a fake RNA message that didn't come from your DNA. And what the RNA message is telling your cells to build the COVID-19 or SARS coronavirus 2 spike protein. So you're telling your cells to make the virus. And then after your body has produced the virus in its own factory, hopefully the idea is that then
your own body has produced the vaccine in what do you say? The factory, yeah. Your body is a factory now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but Dale Bigtree is unaware of how your immune system works and how to train the immune system, meaning that he doesn't fully understand how viruses, right? Or how pathogens work. So he's unfamiliar with viruses and how they trigger an immune response, whether positive or negatively, as far as the impact. He doesn't know how that works. He's going crazy. So let me let him play it through, and I ain't gonna stop him this time. Let's just hear what he says. Let's see how much sense he makes. If he gets too crazy, I'm gonna stop.
Telling your cells to build the COVID-19 or SARS coronavirus 2 spike protein. So you're telling your cells to make the virus. And then after your body has produced the virus in its own factory, hopefully the idea is that then your body will recognize, oh my God, there's all of a sudden a virus here, and start creating the antibodies and the T cell immunity to fight it. So it's a brand new, very, very experimental approach where the virus is created in the body. So I just
real quick, this is not a brand new approach. The research has been ongoing for almost 30 years. We clearly explained that in the mRNA presentation on the Mossy Warrior Clan. They have not. This is not an experiment. Even at the time that he was saying this, it was not an experiment. The reason being is because the vaccine had already went through its experimental phase in preclinical trials with animals, non-human primates. That's what they experimented on. Non-human primates, mice, ferrets, what them little gold-looking thing, hamsters or whatever. Something else they experimented on. So here we go. Let me let them play.
Want to point out, and then the other one's an adenovirus vector vaccine.
See what I mean? We ain't even at the point of an adenovirus vector vaccine, yet he's confusing all of that. But he was, listen, this is how confusing Dale is. He's going to be, he just totally said something about going into the DNA, which he was pro. He was pro it going to the DNA. But he said this other one was just a fake and all these other things. Watch how he flim-flams us.
Sort of similar. We take a monkey adenovirus that your body doesn't really recognize, supposedly, and we put a message inside of that, a fragment that's going to encode in your DNA, and we send that into your body. Either way, I just want people to know this is totally experimental. None of these companies have ever had a success with this process, even though they've been working on them for 10 to 20 years. It's all been a failure until suddenly now it's not a failure.
No, it's not a failure because they figured it out. 25 years ago, they couldn't figure it out. They were missing something. They couldn't develop the one thing that they needed to develop to be able to make it work. That was the dang on spike. Yes, the spike binds the receptors. How does he know to say the mRNA gets your body to make the spike protein, but then say it's telling your body to make the virus? Man, he crazy. It doesn't even tell your body to make the virus. It trains your body to make the spike protein so that when it comes in contact with the virus, it rejects it. I told you his verbiage. You got to watch him. He's slick here. You can tell he doesn't know, but he's trying to explain what he doesn't know and make it seem like he knows what he doesn't know.
You can't compare this vaccine to how vaccines have always been made. What we are comparing is the coronavirus to the flu. And the reason that comparison is being made is, unlike measles or other more stable illnesses, where we imagine you could, we know when you caught measles as a child, you would have lifelong immunity because your body recognizes so totally the measles virus that it will never in any form, it won't mutate enough to trick your immune system and get.
FYI, there's a lot of people that die from the measles, mumps, rubella. You see what I'm saying? And you don't compare COVID with the flu. Two different viruses. Flu seasonal. But let's hear what he got to say. My bad, y'all.
Past it, whereas the flu mutates all the time, many times every year. We're trying to guess what new mutation or what version is coming our way, and that's what the coronavirus is like. It is constantly mutating. Many discussions that it's already.
All right, so this is why he's comparing it. He's comparing it to say that it's similar to the flu because of the mutations, and people are trying to guess. No, flu is seasonal, okay? They have certain seasons for flu, right? They know this. That's why the vaccines aren't longevity, but they're about to work on mRNA vaccines for flu, which is a good thing. However, we got, 12 to 15 different variants right now in less than a full year. Well, let me see. A year and some change, year and a half, we have 15 variants, which we've all recognized. And for everybody who's got the Moderna vaccine, shout out to all my Moderna vaccine crew out there. The Moderna vaccine has been tested against all variants. Shout out to everybody who's got Pfizer, which has been tested against all variants. Johnson & Johnson, all variants. But Pfizer wants to up the ante on it's because it performed a little poor against the Delta variant, and it wants to increase the efficacy. So it wants to do that. But scientists are telling them, no booster at this particular time. Let's wait. It's too early for that. You know what I'm saying? The vaccine is still performing well, but Pfizer just wants the efficacy high because Moderna's efficacy rate maintained high, really high, well above the expectation. So, Pfizer's a little bit in his feelings about that. You know what I mean? But still, Pfizer's still effective against Delta. It's just not as high as Moderna. So shout out to all my Moderna's vaccinaries out there. And let me let them go again. I'm sorry, y'all. I keep interrupting this dude.
Already potentially mutated over 100, some say as many as 400 times. There's been mutations of the coronavirus, but we get new versions of
Okay, I'm sorry. I ain't gonna apologize no more for stopping this dumb off. This fool said 400 versions of the coronavirus. 400. I can't make this up.
Like it is constantly mutating. Many discussions that it's already potentially mutated over 100, some say as many as 400 times.
One more time. One more time for the children in the back of the that wasn't paying attention to it. Pfizer's cool, bro, but yeah, you should have got that Moderna. All right, listen.
Many discussions that it's already potentially mutated over 100, some say as many as 400 times.
There is no scientific article, study, or research that has stated that the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 / COVID-19 has mutated 400 times. Absolute zero. Zero. He made this up. We're 5 minutes into the video and he's already made up a bunch of claims.
Potentially mutated over 100, some say as many as 400 times. There's been mutations of the coronavirus, but we get new versions of coronaviruses, flu viruses every year, which is why
this man just said that we get new versions of the coronavirus and flu virus every year. Yeah, damn lie. Let's go.
Been mutations of the coronavirus, but we get new versions of coronaviruses, flu viruses every year, which is why they've never really been able to achieve that herd immunity, which would be a vaccine that protects you from flu your whole life, or even when.
That is not why, man. That is not why. The flu is seasonal and there's different types of flu. You have the bird flu. You got the swine flu. That's 2 different flus right there. You got so many different factions of the flu. You can. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying. There are 4 types of influenza viruses. You have A, B, C, and D. Human influenza A and B viruses cause seasonal epidemics of disease known as the flu season almost every winter in the United States. Influenza A viruses are the only influenza virus known to cause flu pandemics, i.e., global epidemics of flu disease. A pandemic can occur when a new and very different influenza A virus emerges that both infects people and has the ability to spread efficiently between people. Influenza type C infections generally cause mild illnesses and are not thought to cause human flu epidemics. Influenza D virus primarily affect cattle and are not known to infect or cause illness in people. Influenza A are divided into subtypes based on 2 proteins on the surface of the virus. You have the hemagglutinin H and the neuraminidase N. That's the H N, and then you get the H1N1, blah, blah, blah. There are 18 different types, subtypes, and 11 different subtypes of each. Here we go. H1N1, H3N2. Now we got the new H5. So there's different types of flus every year. It's not the same flu. So you can't use the same vaccine for the same. Okay, you can't use the same vaccine for a newer version of the flu because it's seasonal. So you can't use the same one. But he doesn't know the difference. Therefore, he's misinforming people. But where my video go? Let's get back to this.
When you catch a flu, it doesn't necessarily protect you for your entire life. It protects you for many, many years. And then eventually there'll be a mutation that your body doesn't recognize and you'll have to catch it again. So that's where that comparison is coming in. It's actually between the similarity in the way the viruses work, not the similarity of the vaccine.
So one of the main questions that I found or came across when I was going through all the different feeds online is that the mRNA vaccine, because it is dealing with your DNA, that it will forever alter the DNA of the
My feelings is hurt. Because he sit here and almost explained to this lady how mRNA vaccines work. Even though he got a lot of that wrong, he didn't say that it alters the DNA. And she says in her research, she says what she says. So let it go.
Vaccine, because it is dealing with your DNA, that it will forever alter the DNA of the person who has that vaccine. Is that a correct statement?
It's not a correct statement as a fact. It is a theoretical possibility. And that's why you want to do long-term studies on this. Remember, we have a message that's telling your cells to create a spike protein. The question that really has not been answered is, what if your cells just keep making COVID-19 spike proteins the rest of your life? What would stop that process? Now,
Hey, great question. What if the vaccine just helps you keep making the spike protein for the rest of your life? That means that you have lifelong immunity. Duh. You know the same thing that you just mentioned about measles? You would have lifelong immunity, which would mean the vaccine is successful because guess what it's doing? It is forever making the spike protein to protect you against a novel virus that eventually ain't going away because it's a virus just like all the other viruses. It's not going away. You can't eliminate viruses from the planet. They're going to outlive us. So if your body is going to continue to keep making it, then that's an excellent thing. And you're in checkmate. That is the number one reason why you want to get the vaccine. Because your body's going to keep making a spike over and over and over to protect itself. Duh. That is the job of the vaccines. But neither you or this lady have really clearly understood that. And then I will give you this, Dale. You did say that's not a fact. He said that. He said it's not a fact, right? You see how he toes the line. He said it's not a fact that it'll alter your DNA. It's a theoretical. He called it a theoretical, whatever he said. But let me run it back and let's see him put his foot in his mouth.
Message that's telling your cells to create a spike protein. The question that really has not been answered is, what if your cells just keep making COVID-19 spike proteins the rest of your life? What would stop that process? Now, there's an assumption.
Why would we want to stop the process? The virus is not going anywhere. We want the body to continue to be prepared to fight off the virus.
That it will stop fairly immediately once the antibodies come along, but we really don't know. We don't know that we have it. It's very much like, you know, when we were going to drop the first atom bomb or split atoms for the first time. The real concern was, what if the atoms never stopped splitting? It would eventually just wipe out all existence on the Earth. And so science took the risk to try it out. Very much what's happening inside of those the people involved in these trials, we really don't know what's happening in their immune system right now. We know that they got sick after the first shot, but didn't really create the correct antibodies to stop.
He's lying. We looked at the trial data. He just made up a bold-faced lie. You know, see, he'll try to give you some tiptoeing the line, kind of. He's pseudo with it.
The illness, but after this,
he's very pseudo with it because he'll try to give you some potential credible, almost credible information as if he may be right, could be wrong, and then he'll turn around and then just be wrong as hell. Just be wrong as hell. And he just did it again. Let's run it back. This is why he's so dangerous.
Their immune system right now. We know that they got sick after the first shot.
Now, we know for a fact that everybody didn't get sick after the first shot. All you vaccinated mofos in here. All you vaccinated mofos in here. Y'all got the vaccine. How many of y'all got sick? After my first shot, I ain't get sick. I didn't get sick after my first shot. I got my shot, and I went on about my day. I had pain at the injection site. My arm was sore for about a day and a half. After that, my arm was cool. I had no problems. So for him to say after the first shot, all these people got sick is incorrect, because when we go and we look at the actual data, we look at the reporting from Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna, we know how many people had an adverse reaction after the initial shot, and it was very low. It was in the people that was around 18 years old. It wasn't the people that were used to getting vaccines and things of that nature. So he was very incorrect there. But let him go.
But didn't really create the correct antibodies to stop the illness. But after.
How does he know that it didn't do that? He's lying. Ladies and gentlemen, this information is nowhere in any of the FDA information. That it didn't produce the correct amount of antibodies. That is a bold-faced lie. He's making it up. Damn. Let me shut up. Just let him go.
The second shot, when they get sick, it seems to be creating the more important antibodies, the ones, so the neutralize.
Okay, so the first shot didn't create the important antibodies. It didn't do the right type of antibodies, but the second shot created, because they got sick, created the right type of antibodies and gave a more robust response. You see what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't know the science. He knows the outer layers of the potential of what's supposed to occur or happen, and then he twists it and misinforms it all in there. It's propaganda from point A to point B.
Antibodies are involved. Now, what we don't know is, has the process stopped happening in their body? Did the RNA stop sending this message, or have the cells then corrected? All of these, and I'm really generalizing. We're starting a factory up and making it run. We're creating a factory that's never happened in the immune system. Who shuts that down? When does the body shut it down?
All right, put a 1 in the chat. If you put a 1 in the chat, if you want your body to stop producing the spike protein, put a 2 in the chat if you want your body to continue to make the spike protein to fight against the novel virus. Put a 1 in the chat if you want your body, after you've been vaccinated, to stop making the spike protein to defend itself. Put a 2 in the chat if you want your body to continue to make the spike protein to defend itself against the novel virus and the many variants that exist. I need to make sure that we fully understand what is transpiring at the 7-minute mark of this video. I ain't looked down yet at my phone to see what anyone put in the chat yet. So I'm going to say it real slow in case some people didn't understand. Put a 1 in the chat if you want your body to stop making the spike protein to protect itself against the many variants and the virus. Meaning, if you stop making it, you are susceptible of being infected, potential hospitalization or death, or some type of mild or some type of severe reaction. Put a 2 in the chat if you want your body to continue to fight against the novel virus and protect you from hospitalization and death, severe or mild reaction. It's that simple. You don't want your immune system to act like a light switch. You want your immune system trained to go. This also shows that Dale is not familiar with how the immune system works, because what you're vaccinated against, no matter what it is you're vaccinated against, your body has already created the memory. Notice, he ain't mentioned crap about memory here. Once your body has stored what it needs to store in it to defend itself, it will always have the memory in case something runs up. Okay, well, I got a bunch of tools. I don't have a lot of tools because there's some people that's watching the channel who may not be vaccinated and don't fully understand what I'm asking. What up, Marlon? I see you joined us, brother. Like the show, share the show, subscribe to the channel. You're not subscribed, I need some subscribers. Let's get it in. Zion said he wants an evolving immune system. Facts. All right, let me run it back a little bit and let him go.
Up and making it run, we're creating a factory that's never happened in the immune system. Who shuts that down? When does the body shut it down? We won't have answers to that for 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
There you go. That's what I was waiting on. He's talking about how long does immunity last? In 2020, he says we don't have the answers. Then he propagates it and says we won't have it until 3, 5, 20 years down the road. Who the hell gonna be thinking about a novel virus that was from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, depending on how long we're able to fight against this, until we can control it 20 years from now? Even if we think about it 20 years from now, we're going to know what we did in 2019 and 2020 saved lives 20 years from now. How many people do you wake up to and have conversations with to talk about the Spanish flu, the pandemic of 1918? How many people do you know right now talk about 1918? What about the first coronavirus spread? What about anthrax? You got people still talking about anthrax? See the logic behind that? But the real point is, what we do know is within the first 45 days, we know if you're going to have any long-term issues, health issues, within the first 45 days after receiving the second dose. We know that. We know that the people who received the vaccine in 2019, the first people who got the vaccine, hadn't had another vaccine since. And they got it in 2019 in phase 1. Have not had another vaccine since phase 1 trials. It is 2021. They got theirs and they, hold on, not 2019. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Let me retract that. In 2020, in like March, late March, early April, they got their vaccine. So we already know that it's been over a year and they ain't had to get another vaccine. It's been over a year and 3 months. They haven't had to get another vaccine.
Watching these people.
A year and 3 months. So vaccine immunity has lasted a year and 3 months. Natural infection, 6 months to 11 months. Natural infection, which makes you susceptible for reinfection, because reinfection can occur within, on average, around 6 months. We've had some people been reinfected after 3 months, some 2 months. We just lost a 90-year-old lady who'd been infected with 2 variants. She was infected with the Delta variant and the Alpha variant at the same damn time. She's out of here. She wasn't even vaccinated. Killed her, took her out. But let me run it back, let him go. I don't want to stretch this all the way out. I know I didn't drag this out. I'm so sorry.
For 3, 5, 10 years down the road, watching these people that were involved in the trial. The concern is that as soon as this vaccine gets approved, science will stop watching and looking for the answer for the long-term effects. And this is why it's so dangerous to have protection from liability, which has been granted in virtually every country around the world, I think.
Now, again, now we know why he said 3, 5, and 20 years, and because he reverted right back to his anti-vaccine rhetoric, because he talked about liability, protection. He talked about what he doesn't know, or what he assumes, right? But he did not even mention that the other. Never mind. Just let him go.
I think Brazil might be pushing back on this, but in every country, for the most part, forgetting liability to manufacturing them from liability. So, and as AstraZeneca said in an article, I believe it was the Daily Mail, they said we have to be protected from liability because we can't be held responsible if there's an adverse event that appears 4 years down the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the people in the front and the people in the rear, the people to the left and the people who hear me clear. AstraZeneca ain't even being administered in the United States. AstraZeneca didn't even make it through, didn't even get the EUA. AstraZeneca was denied by the FDA several times. They need to get that data right. We ain't even looking at AstraZeneca. We got Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. Why are we talking about AstraZeneca? That's not a problem for the people in the United States. However, Brother Fitz in the UK got AstraZeneca, and the vaccine has been working in the UK. I don't know how it's been against the other variants, but what I'm saying is the vaccine is like 60, 70% efficacy, but we're working with something that is 86% after 45 days with Johnson & Johnson. Pfizer and Moderna, after their 15 days after their vaccine second shot, which I'm gonna say 45 days, is total is 95 and 96% infectious against the main variant, and then the Delta variant, which has posed more of a difference. You're looking at 70-some% efficacy in Pfizer, or maybe high 60, like 68 or something like that, and you're looking at 80-something% in Moderna. But again, the video is in 2020, and these are things that he didn't know then, or even saw or came across or understood then. But here we are. The point of this is the talking points that still exist today, but come out of an interview that like this, where there's a bunch of misinformation in there, and there's so many different talking points, the anti-vaxxers that we deal with, the social media scientists that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. This is the culprit of those claims, and the reason why we're still having to go in circles with this information instead of advancing forward.
The road, because we all rushed this vaccine out for the politicians and for this great.
The politicians, the politicians ain't even for it. If you don't believe me, the freaking Republican Party in my state just told the healthcare workers to stop trying to vaccinate preteens and pediatrics. They were against it. They don't care nothing about it. They have tried to put together, they have not tried, they have put together a bill and sent it to the governor to sign it, to reject healthcare workers from saving teenage kids' lives. And the majority of this misinformation is coming from the Republican Party at heart, because you have a president at the time that this video was still rolling around, that was allowing this stupidity to take place. But let's hear him out.
Here in the WHO, since you made us rush the safety process.
Oh, by the way, they didn't rush it, right? So he's unclear, and he should have known this at the time that he actually made the video. They had preclinical trial testing. From preclinical trial testings, they went on to more lab rat testing, mice and stuff like that. Then they had a small group of volunteer people who were the first people to sign up for phase 1. After phase 1, they tested for safety and efficacy. Once safety and efficacy was approved, they ran concurrent tests for phase 1, 2, and also more lab rat stuff so that they can get more data quicker. And because of the technology, it allowed them to be able to do that. But you don't get to a phase 1 unless the vaccine proved to be safe and effective. Period, point blank. And he didn't clearly demonstrate or convey that in this interview because he didn't care to.
We didn't do it long enough. Therefore, we can't be held responsible for the long-term adverse events that could lead to death that we were unable to, see or understand because our trials didn't last long enough. That's what's going on right now. So this emergency use authorization is essentially putting this.
You see how he skipped the steps? He skipped the steps all the way to emergency use authorization. He did not talk about the preclinical trials, the phase 1 trials, phase 2 trials, phase 3 trials. He went skipped all of that to an EUA. The EUA comes in December. See, this video is November, December of last year. He skipped all of what transpired in March, April, May, June, July, right? August, September, October. He skipped all of that. All that data right there. He skipped all of that to go to an EUA that wasn't approved until December.
It's almost like you're dying of cancer and you want to try a trial drug. It's sort of that right to try, right? We've talked about this concept around the world. That's what's happening. The world is being given a right to try a product that is still in the middle of very important safety trials and hasn't gotten through it. That's why it's so shocking to see the media pushing and having some scientists, not all, a lot are really warning people, but most of media is ramping people up and only telling them about this 95% efficacy or 100% efficacy, not talking about the.
Ain't no damn vaccine 100% infectious. And nobody was pushing a rush. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in December, and we're looking at 400,000 deaths in December. Because in January, we had 100,000 deaths in January alone, which was the largest margin for deaths in January. We're at 400,000 deaths in December, 100,000 in January. This fool is telling us to wait 2 years. We don't have 2 years or 3 years in the middle of a pandemic.
complete and total lack of understanding of the overall safety profile of these vaccines, which could end up being the most deadly vaccines ever made, or it might be the safest vaccine ever made. The point is we have not done this.
Oh, you see that? You see the switcheroo? Could be the deadliest vaccine ever made. Oh, or it could be the safest vaccine ever made. We just don't know that. We just don't know that. But you see what I'm saying? That the anti-vaxxers are taking bits and pieces of things that he's saying right here, and they're making their own post, and they're regurgitating all of this stuff stemming from part one of this video. But we got like less than 6 minutes. I need to let it get further.
Science that would give us those answers, and we won't have it for several years.
So one of the things that I'm not sure.
Before she say any damn thing, he's very incorrect. We have been getting an abundance of information every day regarding the vaccines, the pandemic, everything. This has been the most transparent that vaccine makers and science has been with the public in years. This is the problem with people today, is that science is answering questions every day. And at the point of this video, when this video was published, this video right here that we're watching, it is clear. Hold on, let me give y'all the date of this video real quick. Because we're talking about this video is from 7 months ago. So this video is from 7 months ago. Well, actually, it's from December 2nd, 2020. Even at December 2nd, 2020, Pfizer and Moderna had already came out with a small sample size of their phase 3 testing results. So we knew the safety and efficacy at that point. We knew that they did a double-blind study, which was the best study, and they had a placebo. They were well equipped with that. We knew this, but he avoided all of that data and jumped around to that point. So let him continue.
I think this is correct. Because all of this is being rolled out under the PrEP Act here in the US, there is a vaccine injury and death fund, essentially, that people get payouts for if they are injured by vaccines. And it doesn't come from the manufacturers, it does come from the government. But because this is all being done under the PrEP Act, there will be no compensation if people are injured or die from this vaccine. Is that correct?
I don't know that that's correct. In fact, we are still trying to analyze the PrEP Act. There are concerns that it is taking this court system, which is a really flawed court system that exists under the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act, where we already did liability protection for all the childhood vaccines that are being given to our children. The PrEP Act now protects remember, it's not just vaccines, it's really any medical practice whatsoever that's being used in an emergency. It's so broad, in fact, that I think you could argue in court that a doctor that just decided to shoot you and said that was the best option, I thought I had the time to handle COVID-19, you might get away with it, because it is so broad and saying anything a doctor does or anything a drug company does to attempt to try and help you in an emergency with a new disease is not, you cannot sue them for it. So it's extremely broad, but where will the payouts come from for those that are injured by this vaccine? Remember, when you take liability away, it doesn't just disappear. Most of the time, what happens is the government now becomes responsible to pay you instead of the manufacturer. I want to correct one thing. The government is not what's paying you in vaccine court in the United States of America under the 1986 compensation program. The taxpayer is. You are paying a tax on every vaccine that's going into a bank account that pays those that are injured. So we pay for the injury, not the manufacturer. It's a good question. Is the PrEP Act? There's a lot of talk that they're going to have to set up another fund under the PrEP Act like they're using in the 1986 Act.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one last question before we wrap up part one. You were talking about side effects and the long-term effects. In all the literature I was reading over the last few days, every article said that most vaccine reactions or adverse reactions happen within the 6-week period from the initial injection. But when I was reading it, one of my questions was, what about cancers, leukemias, and things like that, which have in the past been linked to vaccines? I mean, is it possible for them to really know any of this sort of quite quickly?
Well, let's be clear. That's one of my investigation, and what puts me in the position I have been in is a 5-year investigation into how they determined that vaccines are safe at all. And what you're pointing to is one of the great problems with the science around vaccines. They have avoided doing long-term studies on virtually every vaccine, so that what they'll tell you is there is no proof that a vaccine causes multiple sclerosis or cancer or leukemia or all these things, or all the autoimmune disease, which is on an incredible rise. At the same time, we're increasing the amount of vaccines. Most vaccine trials, and this is something that we've sued the FDA, we have petitioned the FDA, and I think our nonprofit, Informed Consent Action Network, is actually having an effect on these trials. We demanded, our nonprofit, because we've won lawsuits against the FDA now, they listen to us, we demanded that they add a saline placebo group in the...
Fool, they've been adding placebo groups way before you demanded anything. And in your lawsuit, you ain't demanded anything. You were trying to protect your brand and your company. See, this is the disingenuous, and the reason why that I showed everybody when I went on here who he was. Because you just got a real piece of who Bigtree is. Lying to us.
Phase 3 trials of every vaccine that's going to be approved, the COVID-19 vaccines in America, and that we said we would publicly denounce any statements about safety if they did not use a saline placebo. This is something that they haven't really done when approving all the other vaccines.
Ladies and gentlemen, they have always, in their phase 1, 2, and 3 trials and preclinical trials, they have always blinded their trials. They have always tested people against placebos. Dale had nothing to do with the influence of more placebos. And they didn't wait to a phase 3, because he just mentioned phase 3 trials. They've been double blinding and doing placebos in phase 1, in preclinicals, in phase 1, in phase 2, phase 3, and if they did an additional phase, it would be in that. He is clearly making things up. This is clearly the problem that I have, because this is where your misinformation stems from. This gentleman right here, and he's influenced.
Vaccines. Well, guess what? 2 days later, every newspaper article said we're stopping down phase 3 trials for a reassessment. And then 5 days later, they added the placebo control arm to every American phase 3 trial of a COVID-19 vaccine. We believe we've directly affected that.
Let me show y'all something. Since he said he directly affected that. Because he's specific about phase 3 trials. So I'm going to show y'all just some little data from Moderna. All right, the Moderna COVID vaccine has now been approved with license and blah, 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 blah. Clinical 3 trials, you see that, the randomized trials. I want to kind of get to the phase 2 data. I picked the wrong site because it's going to take me to phase 3 every time. Okay. Phase 2 trial study. Overview. Continue. This is part 3 part phase 2A study. Part A, look what it says. Part A, blinded phase. Part B, open labeled interventional phase. Part C, rollover proof of concept. Participants in A are blinded to their treatment assignment, with participants receiving either the 2 active mRNA 1273 vaccine dose or placebo. That's in phase 2. This is phase 2, 2A study. 3-part phase 2A. He said phase 3. So we immediately eliminated him right there. He's been eliminated. He's been eliminated. Okay? He's out of there because he said he influenced phase 3. Okay? So here we go. Phase 1. This is a phase 1 open label dose ranging clinical trial for males and non-pregnant females starting at 18 and above, exclusive of good health. This trial is designed to blah 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 blah. This is an optional 3rd mRNA vaccination sub-study and blah 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 blah. We ain't got to read all of this. They're just talking about the vaccine doses and all of that. Now, this is a phase 1 open label dose ranging clinical trial in males and non-pregnant. Okay, so this was open because it's a phase 1 and it's a small group. Now, and it just goes on to talk about the actual study. Phase 2, we seen them do placebo. We seen them do the placebo. We seen them do it in phase 2 and phase 3. I only came to phase 1 because I wanted to see what happened in phase 1. That's for Moderna. Okay, Sean, but what about Pfizer, right? Sean, what about Pfizer? What did Pfizer do? What did Pfizer do then, Sean? If Moderna did that, what did Pfizer do? Did Pfizer do the same thing? Boom. I don't think this is phase. Yeah, we don't need this one. This was the full study. That's phase 3. Phase 1 and 2 study of the COVID mRNA for the Pfizer in adults. When you see BNT, that's Pfizer. BNT 16 2B1, that's Pfizer. In March, blah, 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 blah. In December, blah, 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 blah. RNA, blah, 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 blah. Sorry about the blahs. All right. Between May 2020 and June, 76 participants were screened. 45%. Listen, look. 45 participants were randomized and vaccinated. 12 participants were vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. 12. Okay. Out of 76, 12 participants were vaccinated with the Pfizer BioNTech on days 1 and 21. 12 participants received 100 UD dose of a day 1, and 9 participants received placebo. Oh, the placebo is in the phase 1-2 trials of Pfizer. Okay, let's get back to the video. Damn, that was a quick debunk. Yeah, oh my crazy. Yeah, we got him out of there quick. You see how easy that was to debunk him? And he says he influenced the phase 3 trials. Well, they were already double blinding in phase 1 and phase 2. We just saw the signs.
We also are petitioning that there be that no matter what, even after emergency use authorization, that these trials last at least 2 to 3 years so that we can see, are they causing future autoimmune disease?
All right, so they already knew if a vaccine was going to cause an autoimmune disease way before what he's talking about, and they already had stationed or sanctioned for 2-year follow-ups. This is none of the stuff he influenced. He made it up. He made it up, and he's full of crap. Because if you look at the studies, on the initial studies on Moderna and Pfizer's website with their phase 3 participants, before the start of the trials, they had already acknowledged, and we already talked about this on the Mossy Warrior Clan, that they were doing 2-year follow-ups, and they were having these people write journals on a day-to-day about themselves. We knew this already before he even came out with anything. We knew this in November.
Or cancers. Remember, every drug we take essentially has gone through that process. We know to follow drug, pharmaceutical drug use in clinical trials that tend to last 3 to 5 years, sometimes like Grandpa's Viagra was a 10-year safety trial for that very reason. They know there may be long-term cancer that could be caused, long-term autoimmune issues. And so we run a placebo group getting a saline, either a saline injection if it's an injectable product, or a sugar pill if it's a pill. And therefore, no one knows who they're getting. And we track the health of both groups for 5 to 10 years. We want the same thing to happen with vaccines, but it's not. Currently, most vaccines, you're lucky if the trial lasted 6 months. Right now, this COVID-19 vaccine is technically about 2 months, 3 months max into its phase 3 safety trial. Not nearly enough time. So yes, scientists will tell you that the major problems are in the 6 weeks, but that's because most of their trials only last 6 weeks. You see, this is the languaging, and this is the gimmick with how they're getting away with really bad safety science when it comes to vaccines.
Del, that is a perfect place to...
All right, so that's part one of the actual video. And the way that he ended that was very poor. It was distasteful, and it was disingenuous, as the majority of the video, because ultimately, these people were already doing these things. And with third generation vaccines, there's no need to do all of the things that he's talking about, this 5-year bullshit. We don't have 5 years. And let me just keep it straight with everybody. We don't have 5 years. Let's take the vaccine away. Before they begin to start vaccinating the public, there was 100,000 deaths in January. In the deaths slowed down around May. We seen a huge decrease in deaths because more people began to become vaccinated. We seen hospitalizations decrease. And then the number of people that were getting sick began to increase, and it became the unvaccinated people. And then the deaths became the unvaccinated people. So this whole notion of waiting 5 years at a time that we just seen in January, 100,000 people die. Are you fucking out of your mind? We would lose so many more people. It's crazy. It's crazy. This whole process was perfect. The safety data was perfect. They were transparent. They would not move from one phase to another unless it passed the safety data. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me with part one. Part two, we'll go over it tomorrow, probably earlier on in the day. And let's see if we can get 50, 60 people in the building at one time to actually view. I mean, there's some people that subscribe to the channel, but you know, they just subscribe and just out of it. But let's see if we can really build build up a literacy level among our people that can help them get through the horse crap. But part two gets even more interesting. And I know Omar was asking where Unc at. I don't know. He sleep. Um, maybe maybe he's alive tomorrow for it or whatever. But we'll do our thing with that then. If he's available, then we'll deal with it. But tomorrow it gets even more interesting. And we'll recap part one and move forward on part two. Just like that. And we'll see what we can come up with. We'll see what we can come up with, and we'll do the best with what we can. Now, leave a comment in the video, in the comment section. If you feel like that I should, slow it down, hit up the fact check, hit up the sources or whatever, and bounce back and forth over these things that we know now. We know the answers to. We know more about the answers. Then I'll do that. But I really just want to go through and critique it as we go on and have a little fun with it. But it's really easy to debunk the video with the science that we have. So it's kind of unfair to do it like that. You see what I'm saying? So the claims get too outlandish, then yeah, we'll resort to some old fact checking. But man, I hope y'all enjoyed today. I know it was a headache for some people. I just appreciate everybody lasting an hour and 20 something minutes with me. I know I seen Jeremy and his better half, his woman. She was in here earlier, and I know she said I convinced her to get the vaccine. I really wasn't trying to convince you, sis. I actually was trying to make sure that you could make the best decision for yourself possible, so that you could put your safety and your livelihood first and be able to maintain that. Okay, so she's still here. All right, cool. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that you can make an informed decision, because ultimately I have no say over that. But I do this to help my people make an informed decision. If I felt like this was not the best move for us, I would honestly tell you that I don't think this is the best move for us. I would literally tell you that. Okay, I didn't put her to sleep. I wouldn't say, hey, you need to get vaccinated, and then not give you a reason why. I think that everybody deserves to know why is Sean saying get vaccinated, and is that legitimate? Is he demonstrating why? What information is he using to substantiate the reason for pushing vaccines, or telling us that we need to get the vaccine? And over this last 2 years, I have set out to answer that question using proper research methodology, critiquing sources, and going through this journey and letting you know what I've learned in the process. So much so that I wrote a book about it, and hopefully this book will be used to help people get a clear understanding, slow some things down, and learn from my journey. And again, man, I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's late for some people, it's early for others on the West Coast. And I'd like to thank everybody for spending their time with me. Make sure that you check the description of this particular video, and that you purchase, Kofi's book. and you know, look out for us with some apparel and all the other things that we got coming out, and support us. Please, if it's your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Share the show on your Facebook, your Instagram, wherever you got to do it, man. Hey, try to get some subscribers here. The more, the better. Even if it's contentious people, we need to be trying to cut through some of the noise and properly educate those people as well. So thank y'all for tuning in. On that note, I'm going to say Shimon Hotep, and I'm going to leave y'all with this.